Hello, everyone, and good evening. Riss here again. I'm sorry about the informality of all of this right now. It's been a long, tasking day, and I'm preparing to go home tomorrow for spring break, and I'm just whew, tired, really drowsy. Anyways, for my next vlog, not this one, but the next one, I'll actually be in my room at home, well, in my parents' house, where I grew up. So that'll be a little bit different, and I'll tell you guys maybe a little bit about where I live, about how I grew up, things like that. But for now, on to our next section, which is called Book Nook. I wanted to do book reviews because of, as I explained in my first video, I love to read a lot. And so I'm going to be recommending this book today, To Kill a Mockingbird, which this is the cover I have. It's really, really pretty and artistic. It's a vintage Lee cover. And I got this when I was in Australia, so this particular edition was actually published in from Vintage Books in London. So this is probably my favorite, most special book. Anyways, I reread it every single summer because I love it so much. If you guys don't know, I'm pretty sure it's still in school curriculum that you read it somewhere around 9th grade in your class. But To Kill a Mockingbird is about a girl by the name of Scout, and it's about her growing up with her older brother and her lawyer father named Atticus, and her brother's name is Jim, in Mississippi. And this is way, way back when segregation was still really, 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 really the norm. So, the whole point of the story is that her father, the lawyer, is defending a black man said to have raped a white girl. And so there's all this controversy, and Atticus is seen as very much a hero type type character in the story. And Scout definitely learns to see him as a hero as she grows up. And it's about the different things expected of this little girl as she grows up, because she's a tomboy. She likes to run around, climb trees, and get dirty. But all the little ladies are always talking about, oh, you should wear more dresses, sit still and don't squirm in church, and that kind of thing. And she watches her older brother go through a little bit of that puberty stage where he goes from about maybe 10 to 12, that horrible in-between junior high stage where you start to really hate everything and everyone. And it's a really, really good story because it teaches valuable lessons. Like, I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes. Let me see if I can find it. I can pretty much navigate this book. Here you go. This is when Atticus is talking to Scout about something that's going on. And he says, first of all, he said, if you can learn a simple trick, Scout, you'll get along better with all kinds of folks. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view. Sir? Until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. So there are valuable lessons like that in this book, and I highly suggest you pick it up. It's a classic. It's been around forever. That's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And now I'm going to find a section. I'm going to flip to a random page, and I'm going to read a passage. Nope, not that passage. Okay. I apologize. I want to find a really good part so that I can get you guys hooked. I think I'm going to go a little bit before this quote that I read to you guys. Okay. But you'll see, school's different. It certainly was. Before the first morning was over, Miss Caroline Fisher, our teacher, hauled me up in front of the room and patted the palm of my hand with a ruler, then made me stand in the corner until noon. Miss Caroline was no more than 21. She had bright auburn hair, pink cheeks, and wore crimson red fingernail polish. She also wore high-heeled pumps and a red and white striped dress. She looked and smelled like a peppermint drop. She boarded across the street, one door down from us in Miss Maudie Atkinson's upstairs front room, and when Miss Maudie introduced us to her, Jim was in a haze for days. Miss Caroline printed her name on the blackboard and said, "This says I'm Miss Caroline Fisher. I am from North Alabama, from Winston County." The class murmured apprehensively. Should she prove to Harper her share of the peculiarities indigenous to that region? When Alabama seceded from the Union on the 11th of January, 1861, Winston County seceded from Alabama, and every child in Macomb County knew it. North Alabama was full of liquor interests, big mules, steel companies, Republicans, professors, and other persons of no background. Miss Caroline began the day by reading us a story about cats. The cats had long conversations with one another. They wore cunning little clothes and lived in a warm house beneath a kitchen stove. By the time Miss Cat called the drugstore for an order of chocolate malted mice, the class was wiggling like a bucketful of catawba worms. Miss Caroline seemed unaware that the ragged, dimon-shirted, and flour-sack-skirted first grade, most of whom had chopped cotton and fed hogs from the time they were able to walk, were immune to such imaginative literature. Miss Caroline came to the end of the story and said, "Oh, my, wasn't that nice?" Then she went up to the blackboard and printed the alphabet in enormous square capitals, turned to the class and asked, "Does anybody know what these are?" Everybody did. Most of the first grade had failed it last year. I suppose she chose me because she knew my name. As I read the alphabet, a faint line appeared between her eyebrows, and after making me read most of my first reader and the stock market quotations from the Mobile Register aloud, she discovered that I was literate, and looked at me with more than faint distaste. Miss Caroline told me to tell my father not to teach me any more. It would interfere with my reading. "Teach me?" I said in surprise. "He hasn't taught me anything, Miss Caroline. Atticus ain't got time to teach me anything," I added when Miss Caroline smiled and shook her head. "Why, he's so tired at night he just sits in the living room and reads." "If he didn't teach you, who did?" Miss Caroline asked good-naturedly. "Somebody did. You weren't born reading the Mobile Register." "Jim says I was. He read in a book where I was a bullfinch instead of a finch. Jim says my name's really Jean Louise Bullfinch, and that I got swamped when I was born, and I'm really a—" Miss Caroline apparently thought I was lying. "Let's not let our imaginations run wild, dear," she said. Now you tell your father not to teach you any more. It's best to begin reading with a fresh mind. You tell him I'll take over from here and try to undo the damage. Ma'am, your father does not know how to teach. You can have a seat now." I mumbled that I was sorry and retired meditating upon my crime. I never deliberately learned to read, but somehow I had been wallowing illicitly in the daily papers. In the long hours of church, was it then that I learned? I could not remember not being able to read hymns. Now that I was compelled to think about it, reading was something that just came to me, as learning to fasten the seat of my union suit without looking around, or achieving 2 bows from a snarl of shoelaces. I could not remember when the lines above Atticus's moving finger separated into words, but I had started at them all the evenings in my memory, listening to the news of the day, bills to be enacted into laws, the diaries of Lorenzo Dow, anything Atticus happened to be reading when I crawled into his lap every night. Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing. And there you guys go. But that's close towards the very beginning of the book, so I'm not giving anything away. I really do suggest you guys pick up this book. Read it if you have a chance. Make it your summer reading book. Or if you happen to have spring break this next week instead of like most schools had it this past week. I don't know why we're off. But if you have a chance, read it. It's very much worth it. If I would suggest reading level, I would suggest high schooler. If you're advanced for a junior high student, I suggest you read it. As an elementary kid, if you get someone to read it to you, I don't think it's really your type of story. There's not really any fantasy genre. It's just a little bit harder to read. I'll warn you guys, the first chapter is harder to get through. When you get through that chapter, everything kind of flows. Anyways, that's it for now. Tell me how you like this section. Don't forget to go visit my blog on Tumblr. After I finish making all these videos, I want y'all to tell me which 3 sections you really liked. Like, which sections did you like and would like for me to include in one episode? Or if you guys just want me to do these separate series, like I've been doing, like do a book review a week, do a list a week, do a college cutscenes a week, things like that. Just let me know. I still have one more video to be making this week, and so I'll be making that probably not tomorrow because I'll be exhausted from traveling all day. No kidding. I'll probably film it Saturday morning sometime. And so anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Have a good night. Bye bye.